Here we are inside the Benimar Benivan 122. If we first move to the main control panel, we can turn the 12 volt on just here. Beneath that we have control for the lights at the rear of the van. We then have water pump on and off. We need the water pump on so we can get water out of the taps, flush the toilet and fill the boiler if it's been drained. Next we have awning light on and off. This one here will then give us information. So if we firstly scroll right the way back to the beginning, you'll see that this is a Sargent EC362 control panel. If I now start to scroll through, it will give us a condition level of the leisure battery and then the vehicle battery. It will let us know how much water is in the fresh tank and the waste tank. We can switch between the batteries, so at the moment we're using the leisure battery to run the back end of the van, but we can switch and pick the vehicle. Whichever battery we've selected on here, whilst we're hooked up to the main supply, is the battery we are charging. We can adjust the time, and then we end right back at the beginning again. Next we have the control panel for the Truma heating and hot water. This little symbol here is just letting us know that we have main supply connected to the van. If I now press this button, it will bring up a series of icons, and as I rotate them they will begin to flash. So if we start with this one here, this one is power source. So before you do anything else, you need to make sure that if you're going to be running it on main supply, you have mains connected, or if you are going to run it on gas, you have gas, etc. So you will see if I go through here, we have EL2, so mains electricity at 2 kilowatt, mains electricity at 1 kilowatt, so just dependent on the amperage of the site you're on. A mixture of gas and mains electricity at 2 kilowatts, and a mixture of gas and mains at 1. These particular settings are extremely handy, especially in the winter months if you want to get up to temperature nice and quickly. They will only use the gas as it's required, and if we don't have any mains at all, we can solely run on gas. But I'm now going to pick main supply at 2 kilowatts. If we now go right the way back over this side, this symbol here is for your heating. So if we now click on it, heating is off, and all we do now is just rotate and pick whatever temperature we would like it to be inside the van. So let's say we want it to be 30 degrees in here. Click on it, that's now stored in, and you'll see a little flame up there that just represents the heating system and is just letting you know that you have set a parameter. Whenever the heating is actually in operation, the little flame will begin to flash. Next we have hot water. So hot water is off. Next we have hot water in eco mode, which will give us a temperature of about 40 degrees, and then we have hot water in hot mode, which is about 60, and we can also perform a boost on the boiler. If you do perform the boost on the boiler and the heating is running, it will turn the heating off as it needs to take the power to do so. But I'm now going to heat the hot water in eco mode, and you'll now see it's beginning to flash to let you know it's on. Once it achieves 40 degrees, it will go to a solid state, the same as the flame is. The reason the flame is not flashing is because it is more than 30 degrees in this van, as it is an extremely hot day today. Next we have circulation fan for the heating system, so we can either have it in eco mode or in high. And if I now go back and turn off hot water and heating, and then return to the circulation fan, you can see that we can also use it to vent the van, and it has a fan speed of 1 to 10. So on a hot day like it is today, we can just circulate the air around. If we now drop to the lower icons, this first one here is for a basic timer, and if we click on it, we can set a start time and then an end time, and we can then pick what we want on within that time period. So let's say We want it to be 19 degrees. We want water at 60. We want to be using dual fuel, and we'll leave the fan in eco. Once we've done all that, timer on or off. If you activate the timer icon will come up there, and then within that time period those settings would apply. As soon as we go back to it, we can turn the timer back off again, and when we return we can alter it again. Obviously, if you're going to be using the timer, it helps if the time's correct, and that's all this one here does. It just sets the time. Next we have the settings menu. So within here we have offset, which is just for the thermostat. So if you don't think it's quite correct, you can just tweak it by a few degrees. Whether you prefer your temperature displayed in Celsius or Fahrenheit. Brightness of the screen. 12 or 24 hour clock. Language. Index, which is more for the technicians. It just lets them know what software it's running. And then lastly, full factory reset. From time to time, error codes will appear on this screen. They can be for anything like we have no main supply connected to we have no gas, etc. 9 times out of 10, as long as you rectify the problem, the error code will go out. If it is a gas code, it will display out on the screen that you cannot do anything for 15 minutes and you will get a countdown timer. A warning triangle will appear where my finger is here, and if you click on it, it will let you know what the problem is, and if you look in the manual or Google it, it will tell you. In this overhead locker here, just above the passenger seats, you will find the iNet box for the heating and the hot water. We can control it via the Truma app if you download it onto a smartphone or a tablet. If you do decide to use this, once you have downloaded the app, you will then need to make sure that the Bluetooth is turned on your device and then launch the app. Once the app is loaded, you will see a button that needs to be pressed that says remote control. Press this and then follow the on-screen instructions. It will firstly tell you to come to this box and push the Bluetooth button just here. It will then send the Bluetooth signal out and you will commence connecting up. Once you've connected, you will then be able to control your heating and your hot water locally via Bluetooth. What you can also do is purchase a pay-as-you-go SIM card and register it through the app. The SIM card goes in where my finger is here, and then you will be able to control your heating and your hot water from as many miles away as you want. We then have storage underneath the passenger seats. We then have the hob just here. It is just a matter of push in, twist and press the igniter to light on these two. We then have the oven and the grill just here, and it's just push left and right depending on what you want, and again just press the igniter just here. Beneath it we then have the gas isolation taps for all the appliances. They can all stay in the on position. I always say if you did smell gas in the van, go underneath to the gas tank and isolate it at that point there. Also tucked at the very back is the water pump. We then have the washroom. So we have the Thetford toilet just here. The bowl does swivel all about and the cassette opens on the grey lever just here. It is then just blue button to flush, and then level indicator just here to let you know when the cassette needs emptying. Make sure you then close the cassette back up again after use. If this has been left open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. So if you are having any resistance in getting it out, just make sure nobody's left the flap open. We then have the shower just here, the basin just here, and storage just here. with the basin, just slowly tip back and it will then drain away. Next we have the Dometic Fridge, on and off on this one just here. Main supply on this one here. Gas on this one here. If whenever you select gas you get this beeping sound, just press the reset button here and it will then attempt to light itself again. Sometimes it may take a couple of goes, especially when you have no gas in the system and you just put it in, because obviously there may be some air there. And then the last one is 12 volt maintain for when you're driving. Obviously at the moment it is going to beep and give us the error because the engine isn't running. Temperature control just here, and then push down on the door to open. We then have the wardrobe just here, and located in here is the table pole and fire extinguisher. In the overhead locker just here we have the solar panel selector. So at the moment it's off with the rocker switch being in the middle. If we flick it up, we will then set the solar panel to charge the vehicle battery, and it will then give you a battery status just here, so you'll see it's as good as full at the moment. And if we flick it down, we will then charge the leisure battery. Next we have the digital amplifier for the television aerial on the roof, on and off just here, and then control the boost on the inner dial just here. The tabletop is located just here, and if we now go underneath the bench seat just this side, you will see the boiler just here. To drain the boiler down for winterization, or if you don't want to leave water in for prolonged lengths of time, all we need to do is make sure the water pump is turned off and then flap this lever up like so. It will then commence draining the boiler down. If I then flap it back over again, it's closed, and once we fill up the fresh water tank and turn the water pump on, it will then commence refilling. I do always suggest that when fully draining down for winterizing, that once you've drained down the fresh and the waste tanks and the boiler, that you then go around and open up all your taps as well. That way it will release any airlocks in the system. But secondly, what we hope will happen is if there is a harsh frost, as the water freezes, it will be forced out the ends of the taps into icicles instead of splitting the pipes. Next we have the location of the leisure battery and the main 12 volt fuse just here. And if I now drop this back down again and then open up this door here, we then have the consumer unit just here. So we have the trip switches just here. So we have the individual MCBs, and then the main RCD and test button just here, and they are labelled up to let you know. And then we have the 12 volt fuses just here, and again they are all labelled up. Up the top here we have isolators for components that use main supply. So we can turn the battery charger on and off. Obviously we want this on because we want to be able to charge the vehicle and leisure when we're hooked up to the mains. And we can turn the water heater on and off as well. And again, if we do this and we're trying to use the water heater on main supply, it will error code on the trimmer control panel. Lastly, we have full system shutdown. So if you're not using the van for long periods of time, you can press this button and it will kill any residual draw on the leisure battery.